Hi there. Welcome back to Stationeers. Right, it's been a while since I did one of these. Myself and my wife have been ill, so I'm sorry about the massive gap between the videos. But yeah, we're going to kind of pick up where we left off. So, last time we got the gas intake sorted out, so we are currently capturing Mars atmosphere. So if you can remember, we have the tank around here. And we've automated this vent so that it's kind of sucking in Mars atmo. And as you can see, we've got a nice amount in there. It's pretty fine. There was a couple of suggestions, and people are not wrong. So here you can see that vent is coming on and off. The reason for that is because that sensor is too close. So one thing I wanted to cover was the game is kind of set in cubes. The frame is a good example of a cube. So anything within that space is kind of its own separate thing. The cube next to it is separate, etc, etc, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that sensor off. We're going to put it over here, a bit further away. Because what's happening is the game is reading from the sensor. The vent is coming on, but then the sensor is reading from the cube, which is about here, saying, oh, there's less gas there, or it's the wrong temperature, or there's nothing in there. And so it's causing the vent to kind of toggle on and off. So we're going to just sort that out. So I've moved the sensor. Let's get it renamed. It's no sensor. And then we need to just make sure we go out to our, go inside to our code and just make sure we connect that new sensor to the automation. Because remember, when you are placing down a sensor, if you take up and put down the same sensor, it's not the same sensor, it's a completely different device, or the game looks at it as a different device anyway. So make sure you turn it off whenever you're making changes to your pins. And we should see external sensor. We want to just change that back to external sensor. And then turn it on, and that is now not airing, it's not flashing. So we're good. And what we should hopefully see is that on the next in-game day, we should be able to collect Mars atmosphere at a much better pace. Now remember, we set it up to be a certain temperature, so it won't be on now because we've missed it. But yeah, we'll come out and we'll check it in the morning, and we should be good. So, before I started recording, I went and did some mining. As you can see, got plenty of iron, plenty of coal, because we're going to need some steel today. So if I put a couple of volatiles in, a couple of oxides, didn't close my vent. Remember to close your vent when you're using your furnace, but we're still good anyway. We've still got pressure and temperature, so we're fine. I'm going to close this because I want steel. So we're going to want 1 stack of coal. And then we want 3 stacks of iron. And you can see that we're losing temperature and pressure pretty quickly, but I think we'll be okay. 1 more iron. Yeah, we'll be fine. There we go. We've got some steel. Can I be greedy? Can I get another stack? Let's find out. You can never have too much steel. So if you've got the ability to do it, make more. Because I guarantee whatever you make will not be enough. And then we're going to need 1 coal. Come on. And I think we're too cold. Yes. So let's just stick a little bit of oxide in there. I did nothing, so a couple of volatile. And we are good. There we go, we've got the green light. Do that. And then, as usual, just get everything else processed. While you've got that heat, you might as well. I should have done the silicon first. That's on me. But we got it anyway. That's fine. Bit of iron. And everything is gravy. And we'll leave you open and we'll get you vented out. So, like I said, last time we got the collection going, and we did the automation. So we're feeding that into our little ventilation system, and we're keeping our CO2 pressure at a reasonable pressure. The next thing I'm going to want us to do, it's going to be pretty easy. We want some cooling in there, and we want to sort out some filtration. So cooling is going to matter because as you start putting more into that room, whether it be printers, devices, plants, whatever, they are going to give off heat, and you don't want your greenhouse to get too hot. Now remember, we haven't got windows, so we've got a big metal box, so heat can't really escape. Heat can't really get in via the windows, but it's going to be produced inside the room. So we're going to want some cooling. Now on Mars, cooling is super simple, and I'll go through that with you now. Get yourself some normal pipes. I've got a few, but I'm going to make a few more. I need some iron. And again, remember that anything I show you is player preference. There are a million ways to do everything. What I'm showing you is not necessarily the only way, and probably definitely not the best way, but it is a way that works for me, and it will keep you going in the short to mid game until you've got something a bit more powerful in place. So I'm going to make one more pipe. Okay. So make yourself some pipes and then search for utility. And get yourself some utility made. The utility kits, they allow you to either put a canister into a slot and make it part of your network. So you've got this gas tank storage. You could put a canister in there. Or you've got these two items. All these are basically glorified pipes. But they increase the volume of your pipe network quite significantly, which is something that we're going to want for this cooling. Next, we're going to want some radiators, and to be on, let's not waste the invar. So I'm going to make myself some pipe radiators. So I need gold and steel, which we have plenty of, and we've got our stacker over here. So remember to stick your steel in and get smaller stacks. So steel and gold. Make myself some of those. We're also going to need a passive vent, which I do not have, so we'll get one of those printed shortly. The more these radiators you can get, the better. Ideally. You're going to need a fair few. I mean, to start with, we won't need a fair few because we're not generating a lot of heat, so we'll just deal with 6. That will be absolutely fine. Whoa. There we go. So now I need a passive vent. So we'll make one of those. That job's a good one. And then we're going to want a digital valve. Copper and invar. Got myself some invar. Got myself some copper. So this will just take a second. Okie dokie. And then the last thing you're going to want is some insulated pipes. Now I've got 3, but I don't think that's going to be enough. So let's make some more. We need silicon. Yeah, we can make a few of those. We'll probably make all 8 of those, and that should be good. I should probably be worried that I've got no large batteries. We need to sort power out a bit better. But priorities and all. There we go. We've got insulated pipes. Okay, so to start with, let's go inside the greenhouse. I don't know why I have cables in my mining belt, but never mind. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go through it, build it with you, and then I'll explain like step by step what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. So long story short is we want to keep this room cool. And by cool, you kind of want it to be whatever your crops are happy with. So if we search for potato, and then here, so the minimum grow temperature is 0 degrees. So they'll grow, but it'll be ridiculously slow. Ideally, they would be between 20 and 30 degrees. Now we're going to go for about 24, 25. But any temperature within this scale will be absolutely fine. We're going to go for 24 degrees. Now, on Mars, it's pretty much always colder than that. So all we have to do is use the temperature that is outside to cool the inside. It sounds simple, and to be honest, it is quite simple. So what we're going to do, with your insulated pipes, you're going to stick one kind of like halfway between your wall so that you've got half the pipe outside, half the pipe inside. Okay. And then you're going to bring this in as far as you like. And then at the end of that pipe, you're going to want a digital valve. The reason we have insulated pipe is because if we use normal pipe here instead, because we're going to put a passive vent on the outside, that pipe will radiate its heat or take heat in from the room. So that will always be affecting our room. By using the insulated pipe, this is completely protected so that the room won't be affected. Anything after the digital valve can be normal pipes, because these ones we don't care about, because these are going to be filled with Mars atmosphere, but it's going to match the temperature of the room. So I'm just going to what am I going to do? I'm going to make a T here. And to be honest, this is just personal preference. You do whatever the hell you want. So you can see I've got a separate pipe network. That is not going to be connected to this pipe. This is its own separate network. All you're going to do on here is get your pipe radiators. And you want the convection radiators. These ones work better in a pressurized space. If you scroll, you get this one. This one works better in a vacuum space. So if you are putting something inside your base and it needs a radiator for whatever reason, use the flat one. I'm just going to put 2 of those like that. Easy peasy. I'm then going to take down that piece of pipe. There we go. And we're going to get the connection of that digital valve connected to the room power. So I'm going to get my cable. And we're going to... Where's our nearest cable? Okay, it's just there. So we're going to bring this down over here. Like so. And I haven't got my wire cutters in my left hand because I want to make sure that I don't do any cross connections. So by doing that, because if I try and do that, it won't let me. And it just lets you know what you're splicing. And then here I do want my wire cutters because I'm happy to splice these two together. Okay, so that digital valve is now, well, we're able to turn it on. Now what we're going to do is head outside. And I want you to note the temperature, 15 degrees Celsius. Okay? We'll be back in here in a second and let's see if that increases without us doing anything. So, on the outside of your base, look for that pipe, which we've got here. And just for the sake of keeping it tidy, we're going to remove it and we're going to have it as a corner. We're going to go up. Now, all pipes from this point can be non-insulated. Where the hell are my pipes? I used them all, didn't I? I am a fool, I tell you, a fool. So let's get some more pipes made. Pipe. I'll explain to you again why we're using these ones in a second. We'll just get a few of them made. We'll probably eat and drink while I'm here. Food and water. There we go. And I need you.
Oxygen low.
Yeah. We'll sort oxygen out shortly. It probably is low. Wait.
Oxygen critical.
What? Why? Oh, my battery. Something to be warned, be a bit careful about. If your suit starts complaining about oxygen or power, make sure you're keeping an eye on this. So I'm just going to grab a battery out of one of my tools for now. There we go. And I'll go and charge my battery in my battery charger. If you start getting random warnings like that, don't panic. Just get to your nearest pressurized space if you've got one. And once you're in there, open your helmet and just have a look through your suit and just try and figure out what the problem is. Okay, so back to our pipe. So we use insulated there because that pipe is both inside and outside, and it would transfer heat from the outside to the inside, and we don't want that. We wouldn't be able to control that. On the outside of the base, because these pipes are just exposed to outside, these can be uninsulated, and that is absolutely fine. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to get some radiators out here as well. At the end of this pipe, you want to connect your passive vent. And then somewhere on here, you want to connect your utility. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to put my utility, I'm using the big one, the inline tank. All that's doing is just adding additional volume to the pipe. So it's 2 kilopascals of pressure in there because the passive vent is matching Mars, but it's got slightly larger volume. So it's technically got more gas in there. If I wanted to, I could use that as an active vent and we could pressurize this pipe. And in all honesty, we probably will do that. But I want to show you this bit, how it works first. So we've got the passive vent, and all that's doing is just allowing Mars atmosphere to flow into that pipe, and that pipe will just maintain the same pressure as outside. It basically is one with Mars. The utility is just adding volume, not really doing anything else. Filter low. Liar. And the radiators are keeping that pipe at Mars atmosphere temperature, or they will try to anyway. That is running inside. And inside, we have our insulated pipe coming into a digital valve and then just going into another pipe network with just 2 radiators on. You could put more radiators on if you wanted to. We've got a small space. We don't need any more than this, really. So, currently, it is 15 degrees Celsius in here. Now, in order to cool this room down, we need something that's colder. So in here, you can see this pipe network is empty. This pipe network has Mars. Excuse me. And you can see that Mars is currently just over 6 degrees Celsius. If I turn this valve on, it is now allowing gas to travel into the other side. Now, that isn't pumping, it just allows free movement of the gas. So what's happening is Mars is in this pipe and is now free flowing into this pipe, just backward and forwarding. But what you'll notice is that the temperature of that pipe is increasing. Now, we haven't seen Mars get to that temperature yet. And the reason for that is because this room is warming that pipe up. Because the pipe is colder, it will take heat from a warmer surrounding environment. A, because of the pipe, but then quicker because of the 2 radiators. So we are passively putting heat into that pipe. We are taking heat out of the room and transferring it into the pipe. And this is effectively cooling the room. Now, in all honesty, it is slow, but we don't need anything quicker than this right now. We don't have a massive heat gain in here. But obviously you'd want to see some kind of bang for your buck, so we are going to increase the speed of this anyway. But just to show you, at the moment, if I want this room cooling, I turn the valve on. Whoa. I need some large batteries. Now, because that valve is open, the temperature of both these pipes is the same, because the gas is traveling between them. That pipe is being cooled by Mars. So if I open this, if I close the valve and then have a look, we can now see that pipe is getting hot. It's now 15.3 degrees because it has taken as much heat as it can from the room, and now the room and that pipe are the same temperature. The pipe on this side is now cooling. Because we're not dumping any heat into it, that pipe is now trying to get to the same temperature as Mars. So you can see there we've got hot gas, well, hotter gas, we've got colder gas. If I open the valve, the two will merge together, and now we've got 8 degrees. And you can see the temperature coming down because the temperature outside is getting colder because it is now nighttime, or it's about to become nighttime. So we should see the temperature in here drop, but it's going to drop ridiculously slowly because we've not got a very optimized setup. So I say we go and get that sorted out and make this a little bit quicker. I'm going to turn that valve off, and we're going to head back into the workshop. While I'm here, I could do with... You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a small battery in there and have the large battery in my light. I'm then going to... Oh, I don't need to swap that out. That's fine. I'll swap out that small battery for that one. And we should be good. So, let's make ourselves an active vent. So I need iron, gold, and copper. Copper. Make one of them. I've got some cable, so we'll be good. So what I will do, basically, the collecting Mars atmosphere is easy, but we want to collect a relatively large-ish amount of it because the higher the pressure of the pipe, the slower it reacts to temperature changes. So if by using an active vent, if we pressurize that pipe with cold Mars gas, it will take longer for it to get to temperature of the room, and thus will increase our optimization of our cooling. So if I have enough cable, let's run this all the way along here. Get my wire cutters, which are in my hand. Do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set you inward, and we're going to turn you on. And it is 1 degree out here, but we want that cold Mars gas. And as you can see, the pressure is now going up. You can see the temperature is going down pretty quickly. Now, I don't want to make this too high in pressure, because remember, we have pollutant in there. If I go over here, you can see that in there, look, we have liquid pollutant. The reason we've got liquid pollutant is because the pressure in that pipe has gone above the phase, well, above the gas limit in which it will obviously exist as liquid. Let me explain this a bit better. Go into your Stationepedia and search for pollutant. I'm going to pause the game. So we discussed this last time, and remember that you've got this graph. We're going to go to Celsius. You've got your temperature along the horizontal axis, and you've got your pressure on the vertical. So as the temperature, so if we have a look at this tank, we're currently on 7 degrees. So find 7 degrees. So it's about there. So at 7 degrees, whoops, any pressure above 3372 will force the pollutant to become liquid, because liquid is above my line, gas is below my line. Any pressure below 3372 will effectively mean that pollutant exists as gas. So that is why we've got liquid pollutant in there, which is also why we added a drain to the pipe, because we knew that was going to happen. So that liquid drain is slowly releasing the pollutant and is basically filtering out our greenhouse atmosphere tank ready. So going forward, we should inject a lot less pollutant into the greenhouse. Now, there'll still be some, and there are better ways to set this up. But this is the importance of adding a drain to your system. If you're not expecting liquid in a pipe, or you don't want liquid in a pipe, slap on a drain, and that will just slowly and passively remove that liquid from your network for you. If we went too high on the pressure over here, we would encounter the same problem. Now, in all honesty, I'm going to just put a drain on this pipe anyway, because chances are I'm going to forget, and I'm probably at some point going to overpressurize that pipe. And because I never want liquid in there, for my current setup, let's just slap a drain on it now and be done with it. So we're going to go for drain. There we go. And then remember, it's this little bubble one. I don't know what you call it. But just slap it on your pipe network. If any liquid makes its way into that pipe system, it will be expelled. So you know what? Let's pump some more pressure in there, because we're now safe. Now look at the temperature in there. We are negative 15, right? It's a very, very cold pipe, which is perfect for what we need. So now that we've got a higher pressure and a colder temperature, we should be able to go and turn on that valve, and we should see the pressure, the temperature of this room drop. So at the moment we're currently on 15.5 degrees, so that's going up. So this cooling is definitely needed. So remember, we've got negative 23.9, and then we've got room temperature at 15.5. We're going to turn this on and look at the room temperature. 15.3 over here, 15.2, 15.1. So we have cooling, and for very little setup. Now remember, throughout your greenhouse you'll get different temperatures. Over here I'm further away, but as you can see, it's still working, it's still doing its job. If I turn this off, that pipe will get to room temperature, and then the cooling will stop. And that is how we control the cooling. Now, another way you could have done this is you could have had the passive vent or the active vent on the inside and just the radiators on the outside. So you would effectively cool your greenhouse gas. But the problem is, your greenhouse gas will be stuck in this pipe when this valve is off. And when Mars gets to its coldest, if you have a look at carbon dioxide, so Mars can get to like negative 16. I mean, we already know that that pipe there is currently negative 16, and we've just put some heat into it. So that's going to get colder. Well, CO2 can exist as a liquid at negative 16. So we don't want a large amount of pressure in there. We don't want to put our greenhouse gas in there, because that pipe could burst. Or we would use the drain and we would just be like leaking our gas, our greenhouse CO2 outside. So that is why we are bringing Mars inside and using it just to cool. There are no passive vents on this. So we are not leaking Mars into the base. We are solely using the radiators to cool the base using it. The gas never leaves that pipe. The gas remains in there. Yes, the pressure probably changes, but that's because of temperature changes. But long story short, that is very basic cooling on Mars, and you can scale this to cool a somewhat substantial sized base. Don't overcomplicate it. There are other ways of cooling. 100% we can use air conditioning units. We can use phase change. If you wanted to, you could just chuck ice on the floor. But it doesn't need to be any more complicated than this for your first base. Like I said, there's more than one way of doing it, and this isn't overly optimized, but it's a way of cooling. I want to go a step further. Like, because we've used the digital valve, we can automate it. So, we're going to go over to our computer. And if you remember, we have a spare pin on this. So that means we can code one more device. Well, I've got my device there. All we need to do is read the temperature of the room. If the temperature of the room goes above what we want, open that valve. You can see we're already up to 14 degrees, so we're already warming this place up again. And it's probably a combination of like consoles and doors and APCs giving off heat. We as a human give off heat, so your cooling is going to be needed constantly. So how do we do that? Easy. You are going to label your valve as cooling valve. We're then going to go over to our IC housing. We're going to turn it off. Always turn it off when messing with the pins. Can't stress that enough. And then on D5, you're going to put your cooling valve. Go to your computer. Now remember, we already have an internal sensor. So we can use that to read the temperature. So at the bottom of our code, after the event, we also wanted to do our cooling. So if you can remember, we have to load from the device what we want. So we're going to load into a register. And I'm going to just reuse R0 because we're using R0 here and now we don't need it again. So we can just reuse our register. From the internal sensor, the temperature. We're then going to convert it to Celsius because it makes sense. So we're going to sub R0, R0273. Exactly the same as what we typed up here, just with a different register. Remember, to convert Kelvin to degrees Celsius, you just need to take the Celsius temperature. No, you don't. No. You take the Kelvin temperature and you minus 273. And that will get you the Celsius close enough. It's actually 273.5, but you don't need to worry about the 0.5. It doesn't matter. So at this point, we're going to get a degree Celsius. Now we're going to do SGT. So that is the set greater than. Into R0. So that's where the result of our check's going to be. And we're checking if R0 is greater than 23. No, you know what? We'll go 24. So if R0 is greater than 24 after this calculation, then we're going to get a 1 into this register. If it's less than 24, we will get a 0. Then all we're going to do is we're going to save that result to the cooling valve. And if you're unsure what you're going to be saving to the valve, remember, press F1. Find your device. So we are using the digital valve. And then have a look at the options. So we're just going to be doing the on. We don't need to worry about too much of anything else. The on, we're just going to turn it on or turn it off. And remember, on is 1, off is 0. So if the temperature is greater than 24, we're going to get a 1. And when we use a 1 for on, it means it's going to be on. We're just going to type on as R0. Our text is red. But that's because we haven't aliased it. The code doesn't know what the cooling valve is. It's what? That's not a register. That's not an anything. Let's tell it what the cooling valve is. Alias the cooling valve to D5. And now it's no longer red. So if we click confirm and we click export, turn this on, and we're good. There's no errors. Our valve isn't on. Now, obviously, our temperature is not greater than 24, so we wouldn't expect this to be on. But if you want to test it, try and turn the valve on. And as you can see, the code is turning it off because it knows we don't need to cool the room currently. Another way of testing it would be change this to something less than what you currently have. So if we said 10, there, export, the valve's coming on because the temperature is greater than 10 degrees Celsius. And that's basically your cooling. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I'm going to put that back to 24, export, the valve goes off because no cooling is required. And that will keep this room, once it gets to that temperature, at a comfortable temperature ready for potatoes. Easy. The only other thing that I want to do today, because I don't want to go into too much detail, we want to do this slowly, is we want to just account for anything getting in here that we don't want. So at the moment, we've got 0.451% of pollutant. It's not harmful. You can see that we've got our helmet open and we aren't taking damage. We're fine. But no pollutant is better than having pollutant in here. So we want to just remove that, really. Now, we can use the portable scrubber, which is a device that we have. Let me go and see if I can find it. We started with it. It's in here. So, if I go inside, your portable scrubber package consists of the portable scrubber, a small battery, a pollutant filter, and a volatile filter. The portable scrubber, if you pick it up and hold right click, looks like this. And this is basically a portable air filter. So on the back you have 2 filter slots. So I'm going to take those 2 filters and put them in. And then on the front it has a battery slot. You also have a power button and a a dial that will tell you the state of the scrubber. We can see that there's no pressure and this is inside the scrubber. So there's nothing in there. We've got no temperature, no pressure, no liquids. Depending on the filters you put in here, depends on what it's going to take from the surrounding air. So as you can see, because we've got volatile and pollutant, we don't have any volatile, but it will filter out the pollutant for us. So very simply, turn it on. What you'll now see is the pollutant is coming down. And if we check the scrubber, we can see that the pressure in there is going up. So it's a nice easy way of getting your air clean. If you want to speed it up a little bit, you can pick it up using the handle and just move it around the room. Because each block in here, each frame section is its own kind of volume. So by moving the scrubber around, you can capture that gas a little bit quicker. It's not a million times quicker. It's not going to perform miracles. And also, if it's just a bit of fun, kind of hitting things with your scrubber. But yeah, you could do that if you want to speed it up. But as you can see, we are almost out. Look, there's no pollutant in this cube. We've got a little bit in this cube. Got a little bit more in this cube. But it's almost gone. And we are almost empty. So I go over. So here you can see we've got nothing. Trace amount over here. Let's bring it over here. And our pollutant is gone. There we go. No pollutant. No pollutant. No pollutant. We have clean air. And now what we can do, turn this off, and jobs are good 'un. Now on the right hand side, there is a lever here. If you pull that lever, it will eject from the scrubber all the gas it's collected and put it back into the room. So don't hit this while it's inside. Instead, what we want to do is we want to take this outside. Now, what you'll find is that you can't really get it through the door very easy. It can be quite annoying. But a little trick that I was shown while I was streaming, stand in your airlock and try and pull it in from this side. So if I put it against the door and step back, get the handle, and you can almost just make it appear inside the airlock. So if I close my helmet, cycle to exterior. Obviously, if we had bigger doors, it wouldn't be a problem, but I can grab it, bring it right to the door, step backwards, grab it again, magically through the door. We'll go out this door. This one it will just fit through because it's a big ass door. And now that we're out here, you can either pull the lever to eject it, or you can just use your drill, and that will do the same. There you go. You can see the little white air things. That means that you've just released the gas. Does the same thing. But yeah, that's basically the portable scrubber. So we now have a very, very nice, clean greenhouse. Now, before we go any further, I just want to go and check our CO2 collection, because we should still have a nice, clean amount. Now, we are pulling pollutant in, as you can see. And there is pollutant in there, but you can see there, look, it's starting to condense. So the pollutant is becoming liquid pollutant, and the liquid pollutant will be ejected through the drains. With our current setup, there is still a chance of getting pollutant in the greenhouse, because our valve inside doesn't care what's in that tank. So the portable scrubber is something that, to be honest, you might want to just keep set up in there for a little while until you've got some more robust air filtering in place. But yeah, if I just grab this out, currently we're clean. But if I was to pump a little bit of this in, you can now see we've got some pollutant. And that's because we've got it stored in that pipe network. So, like I said, if you want to clean it, oh, my portable scrubber's in there. But just keep it in the room and just turn it on every now and again if you need to. And yeah, you'll do that until you get it to a point that it's filtering itself. That is all I'm going to do today, because I wanted to keep this relatively short, because I wanted to try and get a few of these out before the update comes, because we don't know when it is, but I'm sure it'll be soon. Next time, what we will do is we will work on just filtering. So we'll have two types of filtering. We'll do one with the portable scrubber, and then we'll do another one using a filtration device, just to show you the two different ways of doing that. And then after that, all we've got to do is set up our grow light and plant our crops. So yeah, we will be good. So I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little bit odd. I'm still a little bit congested. I've tried to keep it as less sniffy as possible, but you know, microphones pick things up. And yeah, hopefully we'll get this greenhouse done relatively soon. So hopefully this helped somewhat with a little bit of basic cooling. But yeah, we'll crack on with the rest of it next time. So until then, take care. And yeah, I guess I'll see you then. Screwed up again. Bye.